Episode of Starseed Activations. Excellent. So, diving right in, we had a full moon last night. It was absolutely amazing. Great time to do things like put water out and make moon water, or doing hair trimmings because your hair actually holds magnetic energetics. We are actually able to do tiny little trims of the hair during a full moon, and it then starts to discharge the same exact way that any full moon discharges your energy field, and it pulses, allowing the density to be removed. This is why we see a lot of accidents and crazy things happening during the moons, and it's because your energy field gets pulsed, and that pulse is done to remove the darkness. It's actually done to allow us the process of evolution at a more rapid rate. And so when we do things like placing water outside during a full moon, it allows that frequency of pulsing the energetic grids to fully be embodied and remembered in the memory of the water, which then in turn allows us to take tiny sips of that water throughout the month. And then if you're consciously focused on doing the shadow work, it allows for you to discharge and do the shadow work much faster. This is beautiful and amazing. Excellent. So we did have some really good questions this week come into our systems. The first one is more like a statement. Fear not of the darkness, for it is simply your shadow. And so I want to dive into that topic because many times when we are healers ourselves, when we go in and we start touching into other people's darkness, we feel it. Your energy can get completely siphoned. And I do not use that term lightly. Your energy field itself could be like, and you can get completely drained by being around certain people. That's okay too, because the more and more you start putting yourself in positions like that with the conscious focus and intent to elevate your energetic grids above the situation, you will eventually learn how to cultivate your own energy field so that those other people who are at a lower frequency or they are siphons, they won't have an impact on you. We're not going to learn unless we dive into the darkness to some degree or the other. Now, each person is different in their own divine right. And so you guys have to feel into your own field and see what makes you comfortable. But when we are healers, we're not supposed to really shun away from people who have extreme darknesses. Those are the people who need the help the most. And so we don't shun away from them. We dive in deeper. And then we try and transmutate all of the darkness. So we take a look at the analogy of having a candle in a dark room. That candle in a dark room, it shines the light so that the dark room is no longer dark. It's a little bit light. It's much lighter. And so that's what we want to do amongst the darkness that we even see in a civilization. We want to be that candle in the middle of the darkness, and we want to shine as brightly as we can. The second that we start doing any type of suppression, we're doing ourselves a big disservice. When we allow ourselves to shine brightly, yes, some people may disappear from our life, and that's okay too. That just means that they are not in magnetic alignment to stay for the long-term journey. That's okay too. So we release them with love and blessings, and then we still continue to shine bright, and we allow the people who are more magnetically in alignment with us to come in and to be with us along our journeys. People come and people go. That's okay too. And so when people come and they go, we have to realize that there are certain frequency matches that people naturally do at different marks or points in the life cycle, the star people are saying, which allows them to come together for very specific zodiac alignments as well as solar energetics, the star people are saying. This allows for that brief experiential to form. So sometimes we look at this as people who are in our life in high school. They may even stay with us a little bit after high school, but then maybe once they just all drop off. That's okay too. That's because they were there for when you were a frequency match to them. And now, of course, we know this from a human perspective because we say, oh, everyone grew up. They moved away, they had families, they did things, and then all of a sudden you guys' ties were broken. That's okay too. That specifically happens because there's a frequency alignment and then people's frequency shifts. So there's a common misconception on the planet in which people don't change. That's not always true because sometimes people go through entire spiritual evolutions and the person that they are is not the person that you once knew. We see this happening over and over again in the spiritual communities because we see people going from a very physical focus and then they start shedding the skin or shedding the ego. And when you go through that process, it allows you to really dive in deep to the traumas, the densities that are in the grids, and we start pulling all of it off and we start healing ourselves. Well, what you'll find is what's left after you heal all the original wounds that we have is a pure light being. Your pure light essence is of a saint. That I say this knowing this for a solid fact. It feels like a nun or a saint. It's very, very high frequency. There are certain steps to take to get to that level, but you must constantly be diving in deep and focused on yourself. It is not greedy to focus on yourself because when you feel good, you are going to shine brighter. When you shine brighter, you can achieve more things in the physical world. You'll have the energy that you need to fulfill the things that make you light up more. That's your highest passion, and your highest potential will become activated. When your highest potential is fully activated, we naturally start to shine a little extra bright. Now, this is also known as shedding. Shedding is when you are doing something that excites the soul. And so the light starts coming out of you as radiant. That is what the star people are calling it, radiance. And when we start doing this more and more and more, it actually allows us to transmutate the barrier between time and space because the upper heart chakra starts an activation process, which allows access into time and space as well as the internal temperature gauge is in the upper heart chakra system, which is wonderful because gravity levity is also controlled by the upper heart chakra. When we start to dive in deep and we are doing the shadow work and we fully activate the Merkaba field, there is a process where the higher self will place conscious focus and attention on us. And then that higher self is going to activate the energetic grid to the 3rd degree when we're in proper alignment. Now, proper alignment looks like opening up the heart, the higher self taking the seat is usually the last thing that gets done, but the alignment is the tube in the center. This is known as a 0-point tube. That tubule, we start to activate from the heart into the throat, up to the pineal. It goes out the top of the crown and straight up to the higher self. That is the tubule. If your chakras are out of balance, the tubule is not going to fully activate correctly. You have to balance everything. You have to do the shadow work first. When you do this and you open the heart and you expand, you'll feel the tubule activate, and then you'll feel the top of your head will feel like someone's putting a hand there. That's how much pressure will be on the top. Now, when this tubule is fully activated, it allows for a sensation of the higher self to come down. And when the higher self comes down, she or he flowers open inside of the heart chakra system. Now, that is known as the higher self taking the seat of the soul. That's where we want to be activated. We want this two-way currency to be fully on, open, activated, and we want to start coaxing down that higher self. The second that you have a negative thought, and it's like maybe 10 seconds of negativity, it shuts it right down. So it is a bit of a process. Now, like anything, it's a muscle. And so we have to continuously focus on pulling it down, opening the heart, pulling it down, opening the heart. That's okay too, because in time, it's like a muscle. The second that you get it and you know you have it, you're going to start to hold it unlimited. It becomes like anything. Your body knows how to hold the muscles when you command them to. So the more conscious focus and attention that we place on doing this, it's also going to activate your highest potential and your highest passion to fully come into your physical existence, which is a beautiful thing. Because when we allow that highest potential and passion, we don't worry about what other people think about us. We have to stand up and we have to do what's right for us. We have to shine bright and we have to stay true to who we are. When we do that, it opens something in the flow of the energy around our bodies, and it allows for a higher frequency to automatically be embodied, the star people are saying. Now, second question that came in, is there one source energy or source frequency as we call it? This is also known as God by certain people. Is there one source energy transferred as fractals across all dimensions? So our physical world we perceive as the 3D, simply transformed source frequency. So The way the source frequency works, or the way the star people have told me that they perceive it as working, it's like one solid field of a frequency bandwidth. In that frequency bandwidth, all of the souls branch down. Now, just imagine like a thick tube, and it comes down and boom, there's your higher self. So just imagine it's like a fluff or a cloud. There's your higher self. It's an energy signature. The star people are correcting me. So your higher self then is here, and it branches down into as many soul forms or soul fractals as your higher self deems fit. Now, this goes throughout different dimensions and parallel realities. That is how connected the higher self is. The oversoul, which is the source frequency, it combines all of the higher selves together. The oversoul is also considered a celestial. Now, there's 333 levels to the playing field of the physical reality. We go through these different experiences in order to help our individual fractalized consciousness expand and then contract. The whole point of being here is because your higher self wants to see if you are capable of birthing your soul into a celestial. That is the whole purpose of being down here, the star people are saying. It is to go through the process of evolution and awakening. And yes, there is a process of falling back asleep. So your higher self and all the soul fractals will come down here to a physical planet to experience the evolution and then decompression of the soul. Now, the whole purpose of going through this is to have the experience of giving life and taking life. We are in duality down here. That is what the 3D reality is. When we start tuning into higher frequencies like 4D and 5D, 4D is above time and space. 5D is instantaneous manifestation. And so when we start moving up in that scale, it allows us access to overcoming the life or death cycle. When we overcome the life or death cycle, it gives us the opportunity to no longer have to go through these yuga cycles of awake and then asleep, which is a beautiful thing. Now, it doesn't end there, because there are many races up in the solar system that are in 5D or higher. Now, 5D or higher can still hold a physical form. It is more crystallized in its nature, so it is not really physical in the way that we see it as physical. It is just a little bit different. That means that they can control their entire biological form with psionic abilities. Psionic abilities include telepathy, teleportation, telekinesis, levitation, anti-gravity, using regular gravity. There's many different things that they can do. They can project thoughts and images directly into your mind to make you see different things. So when I say see different things, when I was younger, I was riding on a motorcycle and they sent me a vision of me flipping the bike, and it was not a good ending for me. But the second that I had seen the ending, I was a mile back on my motorcycle and they spoke to me in the helmet as if they were standing next to me, and they said, "You're not listening to us." So I went home. The next day, all of the biker boys that I was riding with, they ended up 5 minutes after I left in a cat and mouse chase with the cops. And I was an inexperienced rider. So at that moment, I knew that someone had saved my life. Now, the point of that story is that they sent an entire vision into my awareness. I felt like I was there. There was a wind on my skin. Everything felt like I was real in the physical world. So if the psionic abilities grant us access into doing things like this, now just imagine that we are able to beam or psionically send a type of landscape into one of our friends' minds. It's kind of gives a whole new scope of watching a movie, because now if you have a really creative friend, they can send you the entire movie and you are witnessing the entire movie in the blink of an eye, literally. That is what psionic abilities also have the potential to do, which is wonderful. I think it's wonderful because now it takes a whole new concept to the term of manifestation, because before we can manifest anything, we have to have the vision. You can't build a house unless you have blueprints. The blueprints is a vision. So imagine that one of your friends is sending you a vision, and now you have the vision. Now you know what to do, and you're a power generator or a power manifestation magician, basically. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, now I see it. Now I know what to do. And bippity boppity boo, now you manifest it for humanity. These are the abilities that we are stepping into. It's a wonderful time to be here. Absolutely. So, is there one source energy transformed as fractals across all dimensions? The dimensions gets a little funny because the dimensions is a different perspective of the physical reality. However, There's also different dimensions in which the whole reality is completely different. So it could be a change in the color spectrum to make the impression or the visualization of a completely different reality. It could be something simple, like instead of small people who are 5-6 feet tall on this planet, you could have giants. That's a different perspective. Now, that's different dimensions, but the dimensions are unlimited. So you're able to go unlimited in the positive light, unlimited in the negative light, if you wish to see it as a positive and negative. There's also up and down. That's the density levels. Now, the density levels are basically like, how happy are you? And so when you're at a very high frequency, you're usually following your highest passion. You're very happy. You're shining a lot of love and light. And so your body, you'll naturally be drawn, or you'll have cravings to eat fresh, raw food. And that's because it's a much lighter substance. It's easier to digest and it doesn't weigh you down. So density is a very real thing, because if you eat something and you feel weighed down, that's density. Now, density, we can lower our frequency to the degree in which we feel sick and we cannot move from our beds. That's density. An illness is a form of density. Now, each and every one of us have experienced that to some degree, where we have a cold or a flu or something that just knocks us right out. Density and motion. So your location ring, they are directly one and the same. And so there's a ring that goes on the outside of that density, and it allows for when you don't feel good, you won't be allowed to leave that one location. When you feel amazing and you're very high frequency, most of the time the location ring that you embody is very wide. Now you may be traveling, you may be running around, you're everywhere, you're bippity boppity and booing all over the place because you have the energy to do so. This is natural. This is a part. Density and motion goes hand in hand. So when we could start to recognize that, this gives new terms and meanings to the fight or flight systems, because we do see something called inward shelling. This is what the star people have given me as a name. I don't know if there's a real name on the planet. I just know what the star people tell me. They tell me inward shelling is when we have 3 degrees of the energetic grid structures on the outside of our bodies and 3 degrees on the inside. Now, inward shelling is when our consciousness shifts and focuses on the inside. So many times people will be more drawn in to stay in their room or indoors. Your fight or flight systems turn on. There's anxiety and stress that's running through the physical material. This is when you're coming inward. Now, a soul cry is when the soul starts the inward shelling process to the point where it comes in the 1st degree, 2nd degree, and the 3rd degree. The star people are actually saying the 1st degree is in the center column, the 2nd is in the middle, and the 3rd is in the outside. It's closest to the skin. And then it goes inwards. When we go through this process, the soul cry, the death cry, it allows for that center tubule to come into play, and then there's a discharge. And then the soul form will actually exit the top of the head, and it will go back up to the higher self. But there is always a tiny bit of the soul that remains in the biological form. This is another reason why the fingernails and the hair continues to grow after the moment of death. There's still a tiny bit of light left. Now, that light soul form is a connection. There is an intertwined connection with the higher self, as well as your ego and your soul. So your body, when there is damages done to the body after the moment of death, there is an energetic imprint that still remains connected into the soul, because it works throughout time and space, as star people are saying. Now, that energetic imprint, if someone survived, if someone existed and had a horrible death, that death imprints the original soul form, and then when they reincarnate into one of their next lifetimes, that imprint is still going to be maintained throughout the soul form. This is very important, because that imprint is going to determine what density level, as well as what traumas that needs to be healed. Now, because that imprint is coming from a past life, when we come here to this life, we don't consciously remember the imprint, but it's in the soul form. It's in the energetic grid complex, the entire grid. So that imprint, we have to go into and feel it. What's holding you back in life? Where does it hurt? Did you ever have anything funny going on since you were a kid, tonsillitis or something? We dive into that and we pull the location. Once you know the location on the body, you ask the higher self to give you an emotion code or give you a memory. But we always phrase it like, thank you, higher self, for giving me a memory or an emotion code. And then the higher self is going to give you something in the conscious awareness. So some memory or something will come to your mind. And then you start the process of healing it. So usually we kick off the attachments first by saying, get off and go home. It's any emotion code. So we'll take sadness. Pretend like that's an attachment. Get off and go home. Sadness. And then what we do is we love and bless the body because it seals the grids and it doesn't allow the attachment to latch back on. Now, that is the reason why the reincarnation process and remembering or diving into past reincarnations is very important, because we want to see what imprints we have from the past lives. However, each and every imprint that we are holding in the now moment is a mere reflection of our energy field here and now, right this second. And it goes from this moment in time, that's it. The past and the future, they're all happening simultaneously, because the past and the future life reincarnations is fluid in their nature. They are not solid. They're fluid, which means that when we go inside and we change our biological frequency, it starts to ripple effect and change the past lives and the future lifetimes. You may remember a past life being burned as a witch, and someone here does, because the star people are talking to you directly. But when you go inside and you heal it, that past lifetime is going to disappear. That is what they are saying to you, which is beautiful. So the next question, time and decay. If time is a construct, why do human bodies decay? So time and space is we override it through density levels. So once again, this is diving back into the whole evolutionary process, because when we start going inside and we start holding more love-based emotions, we start having more fun. We start living our life with more passion. We want to be here. When you open your eyes in the morning, you jump out of bed because you're so excited to be here. That is when you know that you are in alignment with your highest and best passion and potential. Now, the time and death and decay, all of that information, when we are following our highest passion, sometimes 3 hours will go by and it will seem like only 5 or 10 minutes has gone by. It goes by very rapidly. So your physical body only ages according to the time you perceive. This is the trick to your physical material. So if only 5 minutes seem like it went by, you only age for 5 minutes. This is how it works. Now, when we're in a car and let's say we're taking a 2-hour drive, if you're laughing, if you're super excited to go, if your heart is racing and you're full of joy and you're shining bright, then that 2.5-hour ride has the potential to make it in 1.5 hours to 2 hours or even sooner. Now, that is part of instantaneous teleportation. There is a flicker rate at the simulation. It's controlled by your heart. Your heart's density levels, remember it has to be lighter than a feather. Your heart's density levels controls the flicker rate. Now, many times the density of your heart, the second that you're in civilization or you're in a location, all of that is energy. It is knowledge. So that energy and that knowledge, it encapsulates the heart and it changes the density level until we know how to properly override the energetics and we can start casting love and light inwards, allowing the heart to learn how to rebalance itself to the frequency that you are commanding the physical form to hold. That takes a little bit of time to do. It's a baby step process, and it's okay to get it right one day, and it's okay to fall down the next. That's okay too, because when we do it that way, we're giving ourselves grace and compassion. When we cast grace and compassion and just, it's okay body, it's okay mind, you're allowed to make mistakes. Guess what? I'm my number one cheerleader. If I fall down, I'm picking myself up. I'm high-fiving myself, and I'm going to carry on and keep going. That's what I want you guys to start doing too. Be your own number one. When you do that, then all of a sudden, there's no one to disappoint because it's just you. And so you start to take control of your biological frequency, and you start to make the changes that you know in your heart is right for you. What changes are going to get you to the next level? That's what you really want to be thinking about, because the more that you think about it, the more it expands. So let's take, for an example, the food. When you sit down and you think about it, well, wait a minute, what kind of food or even material, whatever you're smoking or drinking, what is it that I'm consuming or I'm interacting with in this reality? Because everything that we interact with, whether it even be a simple pen, you're writing something down. If the pen is broken, what kind of frequency or experience are you having utilizing a broken pen, right? So when we start to take that concept to our entire life, you start making changes and modifications, which a little bit at a time, But over a course of like 6 months, your entire life will change and shift just because you've now deemed that using crummy pens is not acceptable for you. So now, one morning, you wake up in a reality in which every single pen that you use has to be pristine. But then you take that aspect into your entire life. Now you start doing with all the food you drink, all the water you drink, everything gets blessed. Your clothes get washed. They should smell like fresh fabric softener every single time you put them on, right? It's a different level of being. It's just taking care and putting more love into every aspect of your life. When we start doing that, then you end up like me doing these crazy ice baths, right? And it's wonderful. You guys should try it. My Starman had to throw me in the tub. It was like, oh God, I can't do it. Okay. So here, let me take a sip. Perfect. If there is one source of soul, and source knows everything, so the source frequency knows everything, what is the point of creating life? So some say we're here for the soul to learn, but this can't be because the soul is the source and the source knows all. So this dives into the theory of, is this a game? What is the intention of life? And what's the purpose and the point of this life? Now, once again, yes, your soul, your higher self, sees the entire timeline that you are currently sitting on right now. The higher self also sees all the potentials because the higher self is in the quantum realm. The quantum realm is seeing all the potentiality of the whole existence, but we are still given free will. And so even though that higher self can see our potential, that free will is still ours. We can have one choice. There could be one move that you made differently, and it completely changed all of the potentials that are being seen. Your higher self knows this as well. Because we are given free will, it's kind of like The Sims. Why would we sit down behind a video game, The Sims? Why would we program all of the people and let them go and see where their free will is taking them? We're doing this right now. So The Sims right now, they put artificial intelligence in it just to see what would happen. Well, think about your higher self the same exact way. Now we become the creator. Your higher self is the creator of this level of this simulation, but we're the creator when we talk about artificial intelligence. It's only a mirror reflection of the frequency that's coming from inside of us being broadcast out. So all the technology is a mirror reflection for what is already inside of us. And this is the reason why anything that you can do with any technology, you can do with the human form. I personally speak on earth-based technologies because that's where we live and that's the most important thing that we learn about. So when we talk about things like anti-gravity craft, you are able to dive into certain meditations. And once again, going into that upper heart chakra, you can control the levitation ability as well as the gravity ability. Now, many times, just imagine, just perceive this one thing, because the star people are saying, when you're very sick, you feel weighed down. That's your gravity. Your gravity frequency becomes weighed down because your density levels. Now, that's in the upper heart chakra. What happens when we start diving into that heart chakra and we start intentionally adjusting the knob? I just see it as a knob because it's easy to turn, right? But what happens if you're in a meditation and then you adjust the knob and then all of a sudden you feel weightless? Yes? Because that feeling of being weightless is how we start to activate levitation. Astral travel is a little bit different than this. I'm talking about taking your physical body and levitating it. Now, and that's only one thing, because you can take your item, it could be a crystal, it could be a pen, and you can change the levitation frequency in the item. What you're actually doing is you're changing the location coding of the item. So the pen, which is here, is a completely different pen, which is over here. This is how replicators work. The replicator has to take a binary codex frequency. Your binary codex frequency is what makes up your physical form. So your hair color, your eye color, what does a pen look like? That's your binary codex frequency. Now we take an experiential frequency. How old is the pen? How old is your body? Then you take the location coding. Each item has to have that triangle shape in it, except it's 3 separate frequency waves in a triangle shape that spirals down just like a DNA. Now, each item has these 3 different frequencies in it. So the replicator technology that Earth already has takes a location frequency and it takes the other 2 frequencies. It changes the location frequency to on top of the little plate where they want it to replicate. And then all of a sudden they blast the other two frequencies, and now you have your pen. This is the way the technology works. The technology that we have is a reflection of ourselves. So that means that we can go inside during meditations and we can start to do things like change our binary codex frequency back to the perfect alignment, which gives us anti-aging abilities. We can already do this through meditation. Many times people are coaxing or calling down the higher self for assistance. Sometimes we don't even have to do it during meditations. We can just do mantras or mudras every day where we speak the words out loud. Every day my body anti-ages until I reach the age of, let's say, 20. It's perfect. Now, you may manifest, and I just did this, you may manifest a lotion for your hands, and then all of a sudden your hands look 20 years younger. The lotion I manifested was amazing. It had all sorts of like essential oils in it. I was like, oh, wow, my hands look so much better, right? So, but what was that? That was from doing the mantras every single day. Every day my body is anti-aging. Every day I get younger. That's it. How do you feel? If you can remember the feeling, that emotion, that feeling, the feeling is directly tied into these frequencies. Every emotion code is a feeling. It is a sensation. How does it feel to be weightless? How does it feel to have a weight on your shoulders? So we have to start becoming aware of how the body works and what feelings we have. Because when we start to take control of our emotions, the emotions is how we manifest into the physical reality. So when we start to come inside and we start to take all of these emotions, and any emotion that is not in alignment with my highest and best, get off and go home. That's it. I don't need to experience you today or tomorrow or the next day. And so, but you keep doing this in the now moment. So anything that makes you feel yucky, any memory that comes into your mind in the now moment, that is what we handle in the moment to allow us to clear the field. When we take control of our field, our manifestation abilities turn on a little bit more each and every time. Don't you have to see energy in order to understand and manipulate it? No, you do not have to see the energy. There's many different forms of seeing or sensing. So the blind man can't see, but if someone walks into the room, he knows someone's in the room, right? And that's because he's utilizing other senses to tell. Now, there's different areas of the brain that allows us to see electrical magnetism as physical matter. And so when we start to recognize, oh, okay, well, this area is transforming all of the frequency waves and making me perceive it as physical, you can dive in deep. You can go into a meditation. You can close your eyes. There's so many different ways of doing this. And each and every one of us, the star people say, we all have our own ways of doing it because we have our own perspective of the physical reality. So there's no one right way or wrong. That's why there's no right one channel. Not every person is going to be in alignment with every single piece of information. That's okay too, because we are meant to take the information as it resonates with us, and then we are meant to take it from multiple sources. That's okay too. And when we do that, we make our own picture. When we make our own picture, that's our perspective of the physical reality. So take what beliefs suit you, and anything that's not in alignment, trash can it. You may even come back to that not in alignment later on when more information is downloaded, and then it may make sense. That's part of what I do as an activator. So the star people told me, keep talking and allow it to hit everyone's subconscious mind, because when the soul is ready, that information is going to activate and they will have it when they need it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's wonderful. How can I practice on seeing energy? I see the light body around every single object that I look at. Yes. That is a very real thing. So if you look at an item, you can kind of see, and the more and more you do this, once again, you have to place conscious focus and attention. You'll start to see, if you've ever seen like a car on a hot summer day, how it radiates that heat, that's what you'll start to see, but it will look invisible at first. Then if you slightly look away, you can kind of tell what color it is. Everything has a color. So of course, this one looks green, but if you take it to like a clear crystal, now you can start to see what emotional frequencies the crystal is holding. But what's even more important is that each crystal holds memory. So many times we can take a crystal and hold it, close your eyes, and just feel what emotion gets triggered inside of the physical form. So many times an emotion is going to be, we think of the emotions like you're happy or you're sad, But in emotion, it's a wide range of emotions. So just imagine that a person held this crystal, not this crystal, that's my favorite one. Imagine that they held this crystal. While they were holding this crystal, this is a healing quartz. So the star people are saying they were casting their energy. So they were opening their hearts, sending love and light to all the individuals that they were trying to heal. Just imagine that. Now all of a sudden we come along and we touch a crystal. This is why you're not supposed to touch anyone else's crystals, by the way. You touch it, and that emotion that's been encoded in the crystal now triggers inside of you. Today, I had this wonderful experience of handing two beautiful young ladies a tiny piece of Numite. And instantaneously, they both were like, oh, they felt the energy shift inside their body. And the Numite sucked all the density out of them and started triggering the densities that needed to be released. So holding crystals, it can produce a very real effect. So we always have to utilize the intuition when you're diving into any crystals and we really are feeling the way it feels. There's different books that Earth has where they are explaining the emotion codes as well as the locations of the body. Now, I know that they had one, it was like a set of books, one of my friends had, where it was telling you the location of the body, what emotions it was, and then giving you a plant flower essence to use to transmutate that emotion back into a love-based one. Most of the plants that we use, they're positive in their nature. However, some plants can be like radioactive, for an example. So we always want to go to the positive nature plant-based medicine. Try and get it without alcohol if you guys can, because the alcohol opens all of the doors to the attachments latching onto you. I know this to be a solid fact. I've experienced it. After not drinking a drop of alcohol, it's been years and years and years. I took one drop of essential oil and it was like a heat washed over my body. And then I felt all of the doors open. And so, because I do attachment clearings on people, I can feel these doors when they open. It was wild. So with me, I'm just like, stay away from the alcohol. It's not worth it. Because then you become consciously aware of what's actually happening to your energy field. And it's not nice. It's like, oh, okay. Let's see. Do I think there is one source energy like a creator? Now, this is the perfect question to have but it expands. So yes, in this current reality, in my reality, in this universe, this source frequency, I believe, is one being. That's the source frequency that embodies this entire universe. All of the universe is up there. Everything that we see, everything that we're in, it's fractalized, so it's unlimited. However, I believe when we eventually go up the 333 levels or degrees, the star people are calling it a degree, it's not a level. He's saying when you go up the 333 and you become the source frequency, you'll realize that the source frequency is a celestial. And the source frequency that we know to be God is not the only one, is what the star people are confirming right now in this moment. They're saying that that's one, this reality, these universes, everything that we see is one. And so many times we look that far because that's as far as our consciousness will allow us to perceive. But then it's like just shrink all of that down into a tiny ball. And then there's another one and another one and another one and another one. And they all work together because think about it from a perspective. We are in duality. So if this universe and this source frequency is the only one that's there, where's its duality? It has to have a duality. If it embodies a certain energy, not that it's male or female, because that's only here. Energy is everything. But if it's embodying electrical or magnetism, there has to be another conjunction part that goes to it. So that's just what the star people tell us. And with that, I tell everyone, take it with a grain of salt, see how it feels, see how it resonates. And then actually, my friend has a video where she shows you the planets. And I thought this video was amazing. It went on for 6 minutes. And so here comes all the tiny little planets. Here's Earth, right? And then it hops up to like the sun. And then it goes on for 6 minutes showing us all of these different universes, all these different solar systems. And then it's like, and then here's the Milky Way. Everything gets smaller. And then the Milky Way gets smaller. And then there's something bigger. And it's like, well, we wanted to know where the giants came from. They came from one of those monstrosities out in the galaxy where it's like the planet is so big. Ours is a speck compared to theirs. The giants had to come from somewhere like there, right? And then there's that whole theory concept of, is the Earth flat? And that's a wild one to perceive too, because we are in a holographic simulation. And so, but there's a lot of evidence showing us that it may potentially be flat. The star people told me it was flat. I can't lie. I was not ready to believe it. And he's like, yeah, it's totally flat. So we'll see how that unpacks and unfolds as we go along, which is so much fun. Okay, does anyone have any questions? So there isn't one big creator that created all. Well, yes, there is. In this reality, we experience one big creator that created everything. That's the source frequency. But when we reach the level of being or blending together with the source frequency, that is when we are going to have our eyes opened and we are going to see that there's other source frequencies out there as well. No, we don't say that. I need to expand the electromagnetic field around my body. My body is tingling all over with energy all the time. And I think it's electromagnetic energy. But I really need to get these questions answered. That's why I'm talking a lot. That's okay that you talk a lot. That's perfectly fine. I love when people ask questions. Most of the times, people don't ask questions. There's like a little blank out thing that happens. And it's like in all the sessions, I'm like, what questions do you have? And they're like, I had 1 million and they're all gone. So, excellent. Let me take a sip. If anyone has any more questions, I'm dripping water. Okay. Now, the frequency of bliss. We have to dive into what is the source frequency energy. And so unconditional love is basically when we start pulling down that source frequency, that is what the binary codex frequency also feels like. So your binary codex frequency is the moment of conception. There is a bright white light that it comes in the egg and the sperm. And then all of a sudden that frequency, when we can dive in and we can use certain technologies or even the power of our consciousness he's like saying to record the frequency of the individual at the moment of conception, that is going to allow us their perfect body type frequency. So if they ever do get sick, they have the frequency on hand, and then we will be able to send it with a frequency generator from Earth, which then in turn starts a healing ability. Now, when we start to work with that process, let's say we take some of our people, we send them across the solar system. We need to keep a tiny bit of their DNA on file because let's say they get hurt and they tell us or they send a message back using telepathy. Oh, I'm hurt. You guys have to heal me. There's certain ways we don't even have to use the technology the star people are saying. We just have to do the energetic casting on the bit of their DNA. So if we have some of their saliva or some of their blood or some of their hair, we cast energetics into that bit of their DNA and it works through the quantum realm. And so if someone is sick and you have a momentum of theirs, let's say a piece of them, your children's baby teeth or the children's hair, why were we told to save these things? We saved all of them, thank God. Now there's even documentation coming out on the earth showing us that we can take the stem cells from the old DNA material because it was in a perfect form. When you were a child, you weren't sick. And so that means that you could take that and you can spin it up and then all of a sudden the stem cells can heal cancer. And this is another reason why we do things like saving the placenta. The placenta has all of the nutrition, all of the genetic coding it's located right there. So if you take that, you're going to have the ability to heal the person throughout time and space. It's beautiful. It's a very beautiful process when we start to recognize. We do not need technology to do this. We can very simply do it utilizing the power of the mind. It's wonderful. So the power of your mind, in order to heal something, you have to see it as if it has already been done. So what that means is that you are going to have to visualize a person as being fully healed because that is going to start the anti-aging process. This is why photographs are so high value. Because if you guys have a photograph of you from when you were 20, hang it up on the north-facing wall, and every single day, tap it with 2 fingers and say, thank you. This is what my body looks like right now. You're going to start to notice it's like an anti-aging process happening. And it's whether one way or the other, the anti-aging process will manifest for you. Like I was telling you, you'll get a lotion. The lotion will be handed to you. And then all of a sudden, that lotion is a lotion that anti-ages a little bit. And then all of a sudden, you do something else or new food comes to you. Goji berries come to you. And then that's it. And before you know it, you have just anti-aged your body. Gold praying mantis talking to me to be studied. The mantis beings have been coming across my path the past couple of days. Do you think it's unwise to send your DNA to these companies? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was even thinking to one point, I was like, we shouldn't even be giving the doctors a DNA. Sometimes you have to, but what are they doing with the DNA? Are they adding different chemicals into the DNA to get the testing done? Sometimes you have to if you're already sick, so it's understandable. But if somebody takes some of your hair from your like hairbrush, there's energetic casting and like all sorts of binding and things that can be done as manifestations. And then, and this opens the whole door to that voodoo conversation. Now, I've never believed in voodoo until someone threw it at me. And I was very physically focused and it rocked my entire world. And I was like, what happened? Everything was going amazing. And it was like someone just turned my entire life upside down. So, right, these things do happen to us. And it's kind of things that we are meant to learn and experience from. I used to brush it off and like, that's not real. But what it actually is, now I understand it from learning with the star people. Whenever someone is doing voodoo or any type of manifestation, spell, all that stuff, it's energetic casting. So, energetic casting, some energies that we cast at people, like I was telling you guys, we open the doors to allow the attachments on. Well, that's what this energy is casting, except it's kind of like putting a frequency device on and leaving the frequency there 24/7 so that it opens the door. And then no matter how many times you shut it, it's opening the door until you overcome that frequency that's coming at you. So the way to overcome it is you have to first be neutral with it. I'm okay with any and all potentials in my world. It's okay if I fall flat on my face. It absolutely is, because that's something I had to learn from. Neutraling is key, because the second we neutral, I send myself love and light. And then when I send myself love and light, it allows a polarity of 3 to be manifest. That polarity of 3, once again, it's in the triangle form because we have to experience darkness. We have to neutral it. That's a gray zone. And then we have to send it love and light. That is a toroidal field. The toroidal field, we start as pure light, and then we go through that gray area, and then it's darkness. It's the void or the vortex energy field, right? And then it just keeps recirculating and recleaning itself. So when we recognize that this is the way the universes work, and this is the way black holes are working, this is the way energy works, we can see it in the scientific laboratories, then we start to take it one level deeper. Well, how does that reflect into my current reality? So whenever someone does throw things like voodoo at you, what I personally recommend, extra saltwater baths, coming to a place of neutral, and earth grounding. Thank you, Mother Earth, for healing my energetic grids. Thank you for allowing my frequency to raise up so that I am protected, but you have to be careful with the word protected, because the second that we say we have to be protected, other forces in the universe say, oh, she needs to be protected. And then now they start to, it's like automatic. It's like, you will have to be protected. So you just have to be very careful with the way you word your manifestations. This includes things like vision boards. So vision boards, you could put a Ferrari, if that's what you like, on. I have a motorcycle on mine. That's what I like, 2 wheels. But you can put one on the vision board, but it should say, I own. I own this, or I comfortably own. All the payments are paid, right? It's paid in full. I own it. So very, very specific with your manifestations. And that's because the frequency of having the bike, you could have the bike for one day, is different than I own the bike and it's paid for. It's a totally different frequency. It's a different manifestation. What do the star people about taking energies on via S calls intimacy? Oh, okay, so intimacy. So there's energetic bonding that takes place. Each and every, this is what me and my starman have done. So we went through, and each one of the chakra systems, like the root chakra, there's energetic cords that combine between the two, and it allows us to send light ions back and forth. Now, what that means is that, well, if you've ever seen like older people who have been together for a very long time, their energetics, the chakras automatically start to bond. So it allows for the telepathy to become activated, and it allows for them to start finishing each other's sentences. And they also start to resonate together. This happens between dogs as well, or any type of animal that you may have. And then eventually the facial features start to show up it's like a mirror reflection. You guys start to look alike. this is what happens. We start to see when people live in the same house as well. All the people start to vibrate in the same resonance. This happens naturally in the heart chakra with the rhythm. So our heartbeats all start to go tick-tock in the same patterning when we live in close proximity. That's okay too. The person who meditates and who has a slower heart rate controls the pace. So that's the trick. The trick is to always be love and light and drop in a meditation as much as you can so that you're the one who calms down the house and everyone else will be more peaceful. So yes, your book is opening up doors for me. Good ones. I had a small alien, and they don't like the word alien. I'm sorry, my starman's correcting it, not me. And his two taller, but if my face turns red, it's because he makes me talk. This is just the way my life is. No. And his two taller buddies show up in a dream last night. His face looked like, I don't know what that word is. Emoji date? Oh, an emoji? Date, brown, and well like a date. That's amazing. Yeah, I have a lot of people have extraterrestrials show up for them. And so we do different activations during my sessions. And then all of a sudden people will see them in dream time or they'll be in the bedroom. Sometimes you see colors. They're always here when we're cleaning up the attachments off of people. They swoop right down and they do energy clearings on each and every one of us. During the lives, they're here. They're in your rooms. They know who we are. They can sense your thoughts, your emotions. And then they send a rep. And the rep is someone who stays with each and every person who watches the videos so that they can monitor and help them. So in the earlier videos, I used to tell everyone, say thank you to them and thank them for making contact and communication with you because it allows them the ability to make more further contact with you. So it's very important if you want their help and assistance. And you also have to always be grateful and humble. And so that's something that they have me working with because in a couple of the videos, I kept forgetting to say, thank the star people, right? And they like it because it's very humbling for each and every one of us to do it together as a soul tribe, right? And just ever so gently, we say, thank you, star people, for facilitating this transmission. And we love and bless you, star people. That's it. And when we do it together, it raises all of our frequencies. So then it's like now they really can step in and they can really help us all because we've done it together as a group. That's what they want to start seeing too, is the big group manifestations. Because the bigger group manifestations, it's just like a meditation technique. When we start coming together and we start coming for unity consciousness, thank you, universe. Thank you, source frequency, for allowing us to fully activate unity consciousness in the hearts of all of humanity. We start doing things like that, right? And then all of a sudden, the entire world that we see outside of our door changes and shifts. The star people are saying right now, thank you for making the shift during this full moon as easy and as swift as possible so that each person remains in loving care and kindness and has an easy transition. So we do things like that on the solar alignments too. The regular physically focused people are not going to do that, right? The physically focused people do not know to say thank you to the solar shifts and to just be at peace and send a love-based frequency out. So really it's our job to do it. Yeah. I talk to the star people in the clouds. Absolutely. Autocorrect doesn't like the word maho. Is that emoji? Is that the emoji word? My spell checker, she is so funny. She gets me good every time. It's everything. I can talk to star people all the time in my apartment. They're always outside. They're always here. They're always here. Yes, excellent. So I wanted to say thank you guys. Welcome, Derek. Derek, I saw your name up here too. Welcome, guys. Thank you so incredibly much for coming tonight. Those of you guys coming to the Shadow Work Zoom, I will see you at 8:30. Yeah, just have a wonderful night and smile once for me and just stay bright, guys. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful night. Okay.